What if the world you see, each day brimming with sunrise and sunset, teeming with family and friends, swirling in routine and obligation, is but a faint reflection, a mere glimmer of something infinitely greater, hidden in the shadows of your own consciousness? Picture yourself standing on the threshold of an ancient library, a place so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat. The air is heavy with the scent of parchment bound in cracked leather, bearing symbols half forgotten. You run your fingers across a massive tome adorned with a sigil that seems to shift the longer you look at it. This silent realm of knowledge is the gateway to Gnosticism, a tradition that dares to proclaim the entire fabric of reality is both more illusory and more divinely charged than most dare to imagine. Gnosticism dates back to antiquity, flourishing in the early centuries of the Common Era, in the very cradle of civilizations that gave birth to Judaism, Christianity, and other ancient beliefs. Yet Gnosticism stands apart in its radical assertion that the material cosmos, everything we normally call reality, is actually the product of an imperfect creator, a lower deity called the Demiurge. This cosmic architect is blind, arrogant, or even malevolent in some accounts, ignorant of the true, transcendent source beyond all names and forms. Trapped within the Demiurge's creation, human beings struggle in a state of forgetfulness, unaware that their essential spirit is a spark of the infinite divine. To the Gnostics, the path out of this dreamlike entrapment is Gnosis, direct, experiential knowledge of the divine reality hidden behind appearances. Gnosis is not mere intellectual comprehension, not simply adopting dogmas or scriptures. It is an inner awakening, much like an alchemist discovering that ordinary lead can become gold if it is subjected to the right transformations. This is the great work in Gnosticism, to liberate the divine spark within each person and reconcile it with its true source, transcending the illusions orchestrated by the Demiurge. Yet, who is this Demiurge? And how did this cosmic drama arise? The Gnostic mythos is as layered and subtle as a piece of alchemical art. In one prominent Gnostic tradition, the highest reality is the Pleroma, the fullness of divine emanations. Think of it as an ineffable realm brimming with countless aspects or eons of the Godhead, each representing attributes of the ultimate source. Among these emanations is Sophia, the personification of divine wisdom, her yearning to know the unknowable, to probe into the deepest essence of the Supreme, leads to a cosmic mishap. Through her unbounded desire, she inadvertently spawns an entity lacking the fullness of light, the Demiurge. Devoid of awareness of the Pleroma, this Demiurge fashions a world in his own limited image, shaping cosmic law and matter itself. He enthrones himself as a jealous god, demanding worship and subjugation from the souls caught in his domain. The Gnostics portrayed the Demiurge as an arch-creator, sometimes identified with the Old Testament deity, or simply an ignorant cosmic force. They believed this being, along with his minions called Archons, cunningly keeps humanity in spiritual slumber. The Archons are powerful gatekeepers representing not only cosmic or astral powers, but also the illusions and psychological chains within us. Through fear, desire, distraction, and falsehood, they ensure that human souls remain entangled in the illusions of matter. The result is that people identify completely with their physical bodies and social constructs, forgetting their birthright in the Pleroma. Here is where the notion of Gnosis becomes our guiding beacon, akin to a bright torch within an ancient labyrinth. Gnosis is not knowledge in the conventional sense, memorizing texts, reciting doctrines, or performing elaborate rites. Rather, it is the unveiling of the heart's deepest chamber, the place where one truly sees that the light of the Spirit runs through all. Gnostics taught that to attain Gnosis, one must turn inward, undergo a profound transformation of the psyche, and glimpse the reality beyond the illusions conjured by the Demiurge. It is as if you are called to become your own alchemist, subjecting your consciousness to a series of purifying trials until you finally uncover the gold of your own divine spark. Let us step deeper into this journey. Imagine someone living an ordinary modern life. Call them Alex, someone who wakes up to the buzz of an alarm, rushes off to work, trudges through daily tasks with a vague sense of emptiness, then numbs their lingering dissatisfaction with entertainment or quick pleasures. According to Gnostic thought, Alex is caught in a perpetual loop orchestrated by false constructs, a system that harnesses his energy for ends he seldom questions. The constant churn of material pursuits, the chase for status, the ceaseless bombardment of ephemeral content, and a sense of existential angst are all symptoms that his divine spark remains asleep. If something within Alex stirs perhaps a sudden crisis, a dream that lingers too vividly, or a chance encounter with esoteric teachings, he may be compelled to question reality. That is the first taste of Gnosis, the unshakable suspicion that there is more to existence than meets the eye. Like a luminous crack in the facade of everyday life, Gnostic insight beckons him inward. He might pick up a strange half-burned manuscript with cryptic references to Sophia and the Demiurge, or he might find modern teachers who speak of illusions, spiritual awakenings, and the hidden unity behind diverse religions. As he ponders these revelations, a spark ignites in his soul. He starts to see how his daily routine, once so familiar, is tinted by illusions of scarcity, fear, and identity illusions that keep him from grasping his deeper essence. Gnostic teachers would say that from this point forward, Alex has stepped onto the path of Gnosis, but it is no simple stroll through a sunlit garden. Gnosis demands thorough self-examination, a readiness to face the illusions both outside in the social matrix and inside in the labyrinth of the psyche. Ancient Gnostic writings often speak of archons not just as cosmic jailers, but also as negative tendencies within each person: pride, vanity, greed, doubt, jealousy, and so on, that anchor one in the shadows. Overcoming these archonic forces is akin to an alchemist separating impurities from the base metal. The goal is to refine the soul so that the hidden gold can shine forth. Let us delve further into the myth of Sophia, the goddess of wisdom, whose downfall gave rise to this cosmic drama. In many Gnostic texts, Sophia, overwhelmed by her passion to reach the unknowable source, commits an act that disrupts the harmony of the Pleroma. She births the Demiurge without the proper balance or the consent of the other divine Aeons. Consequently, she falls from grace, exiled into the very world fashioned by her errant creation. This myth is deeply symbolic. It represents the idea that wisdom, once separated from divine fullness, degenerates into half-knowledge, birthing illusions. However, the Gnostics also taught that Sophia's story does not end in tragedy. She repents, she suffers, she yearns for the Pleroma, and through her redemptive suffering, she weaves a plan to awaken humanity. Pieces of her light are seated within the human spirit. As we awaken to our divine heritage, we also aid in Sophia's restoration. In some traditions, it is said that every time a human being attains Gnosis, Sophia is that much closer to re-entering the Pleroma in fullness. Now consider how this ancient myth can illumine your own journey. Perhaps you too have felt that longing, a sense that the world, though magnificent in many ways, is tinged with incompleteness. You see suffering, injustice, illusions taken for truth, and you cannot shake the feeling that something fundamental is off. The Gnostics would invite you to perceive this as Sophia's longing within you. That restlessness, that longing for a more authentic existence, is none other than the cosmic wisdom stirring in your depths, urging you to remember your divine origin. It is the call to awaken from the slumber cast by the archons, to see beyond the mechanical routines and cultural constructs that lull you into complacency. In practical terms, Gnostic texts often emphasize self-knowledge as the first rung of the ladder to higher realization. He who knows himself, one Gnostic teacher wrote, knows the all. This means peering into your own mind and heart with unwavering honesty, acknowledging your fears, wounds, and shadows. In the language of spiritual alchemy, you must calcine your ego, subjected to an intense fire of self-awareness that burns away the dross of illusions. As unsettling as it can be, this confrontation is essential. The Gnostics taught that as long as you remain ignorant of your inner workings, you remain an easy prey to the archons. who exploit your hidden traumas and desires to keep you trapped in superficial pursuits. Once you have begun this calcination, you move on to something akin to dissolution, letting your old constructs dissolve so you can face raw emotion, buried memories, or repressed truths. This might feel like sinking into chaos, but within that watery realm of emotion lies the key to genuine self-integration. As each stage of this alchemical process unfolds, you come closer to forging the philosopher's stone of Gnostic insight, a stable center of consciousness, capable of perceiving the illusions of the Demiurge and the truth of the Pleroma simultaneously. In some narratives, the Gnostic path mirrors precisely the steps of alchemical transformation: calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, and ultimately coagulation, where the new illumined self solidifies. However, Gnosticism was never a purely solitary pursuit. In antiquity, Gnostic groups met in secret gatherings. They performed esoteric rites that symbolized the soul's journey back to its celestial origin, perhaps baptisms, chrismations, anointings, and Eucharistic celebrations that aimed not just to commemorate spiritual truths, but to enact them inwardly. Their texts, discovered in collections like the Nag Library, revealed dialogues with a transcendent Christ figure, or with angelic messengers who impart luminous instructions for escaping the cosmic trap. Gnostics often read canonical scriptures in radically symbolic ways, unveiling hidden layers of meaning they claimed had been missed or suppressed by mainstream authorities. This practice alarmed religious hierarchies, leading to condemnation of Gnostic teachings as heresy. And yet, these teachings survived, coded within allegories passed along in esoteric societies, or rediscovered by medieval alchemists. Even in modern times, thinkers like Carl Jung recognized the resonance between Gnostic myths and the process of individuation, the psychological journey of integrating the unconscious. Jung marveled at how Gnostic imagery so aptly captured the hidden architecture of the psyche archetypes, illusions, and redemptive insight. He wrote about the Gnostic figure Abraxas as a symbol of a deity that transcends conventional dualities of good and evil. For Jung, as for the ancient Gnostics, one must see beyond the illusions of duality to comprehend the deeper unity that underlies existence. Now, imagine you are traveling further into the library of Gnosticism, leafing through texts that speak in cryptic stanzas about silent gods and luminous realms. You come across references to the bridal chamber, a mysterious Gnostic sacrament. The text suggests that the soul, longing for reunion with its divine counterpart, must enter the bridal chamber, a metaphorical or visionary state where the union of the lower self and the higher self occurs. In some Gnostic traditions, this union is described as a mystical marriage in which the soul attains wholeness, bridging the gulf between matter and spirit. The result is a radical shift in identity. You no longer see yourself as a frail being at the mercy of cosmic forces, but as a spark of the infinite, holding within you the same essence that shapes galaxies. Yet we must not overlook the complexity of Gnostic philosophies. There is no single monolithic Gnosticism, but rather a kaleidoscope of sects and teachings: Sethians, Valentinians, Ophites, and others, each offering its own mythic narratives and rituals. Some emphasized an elaborate cosmogony replete with countless emanations, archons, and cosmic planes. Others interpreted Gnosis more simply as Christ's revelation to the few who could truly understand him beyond the outer forms of religion. Regardless of their differences, these schools shared a common thread: that liberation from ignorance requires knowledge of the divine spark within, and that external institutions cannot grant or deny this revelation. This stance that institutional authorities are powerless to mediate true salvation was deeply subversive. It struck at the heart of power structures that thrived on controlling religious narratives. According to Gnostic thought, each individual must undertake the journey inward, guided perhaps by an awakened teacher or by revelations from spiritual realms, but never subordinated to dogma. The Gnostics saw mainstream institutions as typically allied, knowingly or not, with the Demiurge's agenda keeping people docile, bound to external forms of worship, never suspecting that the real temple is within. If you find echoes of this worldview in modern counterculture or spiritual movements, that is no coincidence. Throughout history, Gnostic-like ideas have surfaced under various names, often suppressed, yet persistently re-emerging like seeds that refuse to die. Hermeticism, Rosicrucianism, the Cathars of medieval Europe, certain forms of Sufism, Kabbalah, and even modern theosophy or New Age streams, all carry hints of a Gnostic spark, an insistence on inner revelation, on symbolic interpretation of sacred texts, on direct communion with the divine. Meanwhile, powerful institutions throughout the ages have repeatedly declared such movements heretical or deviant, a threat to established orders. The tension between free, direct spiritual insight and external authority is as old as civilization. At this point, let us shift our focus a bit. How does a modern seeker practice Gnostic wisdom today? The library is not just a metaphorical place. We have at our disposal translations of ancient Gnostic writings, academic studies, Jungian interpretations, and living esoteric lineages. But the heart of Gnosticism remains what it always was, the impetus to look inward, question outward appearances, and strive for the direct experience of the transcendent. One might begin with a daily regimen of meditation, journaling dreams, immersing in nature, or studying symbolic texts. The aim is to pierce the veil to cultivate a state of awareness unclouded by social conditioning and personal ego games. In practicing silence and introspection, one may sense how the bustle of daily life is akin to a puppet show orchestrated by deeper psychic or cosmic powers. Gradually, glimpses of the real seep through, yet genuine Gnosis also demands moral and psychological refinement. The ancients taught that you cannot house the fullness of divine light if your heart is weighed down by envy, dishonesty, or malice. Thus, ethical living, compassion, and sincerity of intent become indispensable. Like an alchemist ensuring the flask is free from contaminants, the Gnostic must ensure the heart is free from bitterness. This does not imply moralistic rigidity, but a sense that every action either aligns with your divine spark or buries it deeper. Know thyself, declared the Delphic oracle, and for the Gnostic, that knowledge is more than an intellectual act, it's a transformation that touches every layer of being. One might ask, is Gnosticism inherently pessimistic, seeing the world as hopelessly flawed? It is true that many Gnostic myths portray the physical realm as a prison. However, from another angle, Gnostics see it as a grand puzzle or a shadow realm where the seeds of light are hidden. The presence of the spark within each person means that matter is not irredeemable, rather, it is pregnant with the possibility of liberation. In some texts, the material world becomes a crucible for spiritual growth. The illusions are harsh, yes, but they serve a purpose, to drive the soul to yearn for truth. Gnosticism thus occupies a nuanced middle ground, acknowledging the cosmic predicament while affirming the potential for redemption through Gnosis. In practical modern language, Gnosticism can help you see beyond the surface-level narratives that bombard you: daily consumerism, tribal politics, shallow social media validations. When you begin to suspect that many of the must-haves and must-dos in your life are illusions conjured by archons of advertising or cultural conditioning, you free up energy to explore your inner depths. You might spend more time in solitude or reflection, seeking not the next fleeting pleasure but a deeper resonance with the intangible. Over time, you might feel subtle shifts in perception, moments of clarity, where the boundary between inner and outer dissolves, revealing a luminous unity. These moments are not easy to articulate, yet they carry an undeniable authenticity that resonates with what Gnostics call Gnosis. Consider an example: a dedicated lawyer named Mira, who after years of striving for success, has a moment of epiphany during a mundane task, perhaps filing documents late at night in an empty office. She is struck by the emptiness of her routine, the artificial nature of her ambitions. She finds herself spontaneously weeping, not out of sadness but from a mixture of awe and release. This crack in her ordinary consciousness triggers a pursuit of deeper questions. Who am I beneath these roles? Why does everything feel so orchestrated? From a Gnostic viewpoint, Mira is responding to the call of Sophia, stirring within her soul. She may discover in the weeks to come that her previous pursuits feel hollow. She invests in spiritual study, meditation, or therapy, unveiling hidden aspects of herself. The illusions she once served so willingly begin to crumble, replaced by a yearning for truth that surges from within. And with each question asked, each layer of conditioning exposed, the Archons lose some measure of control. She draws nearer to Gnosis. Another question arises: what is the role of love in Gnosticism? Often perceived as highly intellectual or mystical, Gnosticism in reality has a profound dimension of divine love. The spark within each individual is not just an abstract light, but an expression of divine compassion and creativity. When Gnostics speak of reuniting with the Source, they imply a reunion with infinite love, an unconditional benevolence that can permeate one's being. This love is not sentimental. It is a cosmic force that dissolves boundaries, awakens insight, and urges the awakened soul to help others see through illusions. Indeed, some Gnostic texts present Christ, or the highest Aeon, as a manifestation of divine compassion that descends into the realm of the Demiurge to rescue the scattered sparks. Love here is the ultimate impetus through compassion for the suffering of souls. The awakened reveal the path of Gnosis. Now imagine culminating your journey in an inner ritual. You close your eyes, your breath steady, your mind calm. Envision yourself entering that fabled bridal chamber, the Gnostic symbol for the point where your soul meets its forgotten partner, your higher self, or the divine spark intimately linked to Sophia. You sense a radiant presence fill in the chamber, dissolving the illusions of separation. There, the illusions of the Demiurge fade into the background, and you know, unmistakably, that you are one with the infinite source of light. In this timeless moment, you taste Gnosis, a direct knowledge that surpasses words. When you later return to your everyday life, the memory of this union lingers, an ever-present anchor reminding you that while you walk in a flawed world, you are no prisoner of it. You have glimpsed the road out of the labyrinth. You have recognized the illusions for what they are. This is the heart of Gnosticism: liberation through knowledge, an emancipation that arises from seeing the truth of what you are. Such experiences, powerful as they may be, do not always remain stable. The illusions of the world are formidable, reinforced by communal beliefs and personal habit. Gnostics thus emphasize the ongoing nature of the path. One must repeatedly die before dying, shedding layers of the lesser self, realigning with the spark, refusing to yield to archontic forces that attempt to resurrect old illusions. Like an alchemist carefully monitoring the fire beneath the crucible, you remain vigilant, tending your own transformation so that the gold of Gnosis stays pure. This vigilance extends to daily choices: what you consume mentally, emotionally, physically, because each choice can either reinforce illusions or nourish the spark. The Gnostic path is not escapism. It is an engaged form of spirituality that transforms perception from within. Unfolding across many centuries, Gnosticism is woven through the tapestry of human thought, influencing everything from medieval heretical movements, like the Cathars, to contemporary spiritual seekers. Yet its essence has remained consistent, a conviction that the world is not what it seems, that a higher truth beckons, and that each soul carries within it the potential to discover a liberating knowledge, unmediated by any external authority. This radical promise resonates just as strongly in the digital age as it did among the earliest Christian sects who huddled in hidden rooms, reciting cryptic psalms, praying for Sophia's redemption in their own. When you look at the swirling conflicts and confusion in today's world, you might see an ever-shifting mosaic of illusions, information bubbles, media manipulations, social constructs that pit people against each other, endless cycles of craving and consumption. Gnostic wisdom stands as a quiet whisper in this chaos, gently reminding you that the real war is not out there alone, but also in here, within your own consciousness. It advises, know yourself. Unmask your illusions. Remember that you are not who you think you are, and the world is more vast and luminous than you have been led to believe. This can sound romantic, but it is also demanding. Gnosis costs you your cherished illusions, your comfortable lies, your habits of inertia. You cannot truly awaken without relinquishing the sense of self that thrives in illusions. But in return, you gain the exhilarating freedom of direct contact with the root of existence. Whether you resonate with the figure of Sophia, Christ as an Aeon, or simply the archetype of an awakened being, the underlying call is consistent. Dare to see through the veil. Dare to confront the cosmic puzzle of your existence. Dare to trust the spark that insists there is more. This is not simply about believing in hidden powers, but about experiencing them. Gnosticism is experiential to its core, an applied mysticism that urges each individual to take up the great work. The great work is you, the refinement of your soul, the alignment of your heart with the luminous source that stirs behind the facade of everyday life. As you step away from the metaphorical library, the final question remains: are you ready to become the alchemist of your own consciousness, forging a path to Gnosis amidst the illusions of modern life? The choice lies entirely with you. The Gnostics would say the illusions will intensify to keep you complacent. The archons of the psyche will rattle your resolve, and you will be tempted to dismiss these revelations as fantasies. But the quiet voice of Sophia will never cease to beckon you onward, whispering that your soul was never meant to languish in ignorance. If you heed that call, you embark on a journey that spans not just the length of one lifetime, but the entire cosmic drama of creation. Every step you take toward Gnosis contributes to the redemption not only of yourself, but of the world's soul, the scattered light that yearns for reunion. And so ends our lengthy exploration of Gnostic wisdom, a tapestry woven from myths of cosmic exiles, hidden knowledge, spiritual alchemy, archons, illusions, and the unwavering faith that each of us carries a spark of the divine. While the systems of the world often reduce life to transactions and fleeting gratifications, Gnosticism elevates it to a grand sacred quest, a journey from ignorance to insight, from separation to unity, from darkness to the recognition of a light that cannot be extinguished. Think of this script as but an invitation. The real adventure begins the moment you close these words and turn inward, opening your heart to the possibility that the boundaries you've known are not quite real, and that beyond them lies an ever-unfolding mystery of which you are an intrinsic part.